Shedeur will take it with the ones tomorrow. You want your quarterbacks to work at their mastery of the offense to where it's QB driven, right? Their ability to signal and change routes and be in control of the offense. You'd like to at least start that way, be aggressive with your throws, and then let's kind of reel it back in. I don't want to throw any interceptions, so that's not what I'm getting at. Never going to become QB driven or controlled if you don't allow them to change plays at the line of scrimmage, if you don't allow them to get you in a premium play, if you don't allow them to take chances with the ball. And when that happens, you have to coach them, right? You can't, when they make certain decisions, you can't get after them, you can't poo-poo it, you can't MF them, because then they won't do it anymore. Then they're going to stop, just like all of us would, right? You make a mistake and you get dog cussed over it, then you're like, well, then you basically go into a shell. I don't want our quarterbacks to go into a shell. Right. Now they can't sure as hell lose us the game, for God's sake.
Oh, yeah.
Since you've...
that was really cool. I mean, that was a Deion Sanders. You kidding me? Forget that it's Shedeur's dad. I mean, first of all, he did an unbelievable job with Shedeur. Great kid. And obviously an elite football player, hell baseball player. And then as a coach, I mean, wow, everything that he's achieved, that was awesome. So, yeah.
Mistakes that Shedeur made last year, he'd be the first one to tell you. But I do think if you can really just play within that scheme, they're going to scheme some stuff up and not make stupid mistakes. He has to play a lot faster. I think that's really where the biggest jump from first to second year quarterbacks is processing speed. It's going to be a fascinating thing. But I think Shedeur sort of has the inside track of the job. But I like Shedeur in this battle.
There are moments in a training camp that feel routine. Drills run, passes are thrown, coaches evaluate, and the day moves forward without much noise. Then there are moments that stop everything. Moments where the energy shifts the second someone walks through the door. What happened in Berea, Ohio recently was the second kind of moment. Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, showed up to watch his son Shedure Sanders practice with the Cleveland Browns. And from the second he arrived, nothing about that day felt ordinary anymore. Cameras moved, reporters started posting, players were asked questions, and what was supposed to be another quiet day of training camp evaluation became one of the most talked about stories surrounding the entire Cleveland Browns organization. That tells you everything you need to know about where this quarterback battle currently stands, and why the pressure surrounding it is about to grow even more intense. Welcome to a Sports Zone USA. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a breakdown. Now let's get into it. Let's be clear about one thing before we go any further. Deion Sanders is not your average football parent. He is a Pro Football Hall of Famer, a two-sport professional athlete who dominated at the highest level in both football and baseball, and more recently, a head coach who completely rebuilt a college football program and turned it into a nationally relevant destination with back-to-back elite recruiting classes. When Deion Sanders walks onto a football field, people notice, they pay attention. And most importantly, people in that building understand that the man watching practice from the sideline actually knows what he is looking at. That distinction matters enormously in the context of this Cleveland Browns quarterback competition. Shedure Sanders is currently locked in one of the most scrutinized quarterback battles in recent NFL history. On one side, you have a veteran signal caller with a massive financial commitment attached to his name. On the other side, you have a younger quarterback who has been living under bright lights since his first college snap. Every single practice rep matters. Every decision made by the coaching staff is being analyzed. And every statement coming from Browns head coach Todd Monken gets broken down word by word in search of any signal about where this competition is actually heading. Into that environment walked Coach Prime, and the reaction he received told you more about Shedure's standing in that building than any official press conference statement ever could. When reporters caught up with Todd Monken after practice and asked him about seeing Deion Sanders on the sideline, there was an easy, safe answer available. A head coach in the middle of a quarterback competition could have kept it simple. He could have acknowledged the visit, called it nice, and moved on without giving the media anything to work with. That is not what happened. Instead, Monken sounded genuinely energized by what he witnessed. He expressed real admiration, not just for what Deion accomplished on the playing field, but for what he has built as a coach and what he has poured into Shedure as a father. And then he said something that cut through all the careful training camp language the Browns have been using since camp opened. He credited Coach Prime for the kind of person Shedure has become. Now understand what that means in context. Coaches in the NFL speak carefully. Every word in a quarterback competition carries weight. When a head coach publicly connects a young quarterback's character and preparation directly to his upbringing and the man who raised him, that is not filler. That is a real evaluation point being stated out loud. Talent alone does not win quarterback competitions in the NFL. Arm strength matters, accuracy matters, the ability to process information quickly and move the offense on schedule matters enormously. But character is what separates quarterbacks who earn genuine trust from quarterbacks who simply receive opportunities. Character is what determines whether a coaching staff believes a player can handle the moment when everything is on the line and the noise around the situation is at its loudest. Monken appeared to be saying, without spelling it out directly, that Shedure Sanders brings real character into that building, and he was giving Coach Prime credit for building it. That is a significant statement. Read it for what it is. Critics of Shedure Sanders love to treat his background like a liability. They see the famous last name, the attention, the confidence, and the constant media coverage, and they immediately assume everything has been easy. They argue he has been handed opportunities, protected from real criticism, and shielded from the kind of pressure that actually tests a quarterback's character. That argument ignores reality completely. Being Deion Sanders' son has never been a free pass. It has been a target painted on his back from the time he first picked up a football. Every game Shedure played in college was scrutinized beyond what any normal prospect faces. Every mistake was highlighted nationally. Every confident answer in a press conference was reframed as arrogance by people who had already decided they did not like him before watching a single snap. Every successful performance came with a new argument about why the success did not really count, whether people credited the system, the supporting cast, or his father's coaching. Shedure was never given the luxury of developing quietly. He was never allowed to make mistakes without those mistakes becoming national conversations. He never had the option of playing in obscurity while he grew into the position. That is an enormous amount of pressure for any young quarterback to carry. And here is the part that matters most. He carried it without crumbling. He kept competing. He kept improving. He kept showing up with confidence and preparation even when the noise surrounding his name was at its loudest. That experience does not guarantee NFL success. Nothing does. But it means Shedure Sanders has already survived a version of the spotlight that breaks most young players before they ever get a chance to prove themselves at the next level. Cleveland's pressure is different in its details, but the mental framework required to survive it. Shedure has been building that framework for years. Let's talk about the actual football competition happening right now in Cleveland. Shedure Sanders came into the NFL with a reputation built on decision-making efficiency and accuracy in a spread-based system. The Browns' offense under Monken uses a lot of the same structural concepts, multiple receiver sets, route combinations that create quick decisions, and a framework that rewards quarterbacks who can process pre-snap reads and distribute the football on rhythm. That is not a coincidence in terms of fit. Shedure's college background actually lines up reasonably well with what Cleveland wants to do offensively. The question every NFL team asks about young quarterbacks coming from any system is whether the instincts and habits translate when the athletes are bigger, faster, and more complex at every single position. The early read from people watching camp is that Shedure has been doing the work. He has been operating within the offense, making decisions quickly, and competing in a way that has kept him genuinely relevant in the evaluation. This is not a situation where the coaching staff is simply going through the motions of calling it a competition while privately having already made up their minds. The reps matter, the decisions matter, and the performance is keeping Shedure in the conversation in a real way. Meanwhile, the veteran on the other side of this competition is carrying a very different kind of weight. There are enormous financial and organizational commitments attached to his situation. Every evaluation of his play is connected to years of franchise history, difficult decisions, and complicated context. When the coaching staff evaluates that quarterback, the lens is never completely clean. Shedure does not carry that weight. He carries attention, scrutiny, and the expectations tied to his name, but his evaluation is based on what he does in practice and in game situations. The coaching staff can look at his performance without filtering it through years of complicated organizational history. That is actually an advantage in a competition, even if it does not look like one from the outside. Here is the part of this story that the Cleveland Browns cannot simply ignore. Deion Sanders did not come to Berea to create a scene. He did not hold a press conference or challenge anyone publicly. He did not demand meetings with the front office or make statements designed to pressure the coaching staff. He came to watch his son practice. But the football knowledge standing on that sideline changes the entire dynamic of what is happening inside that building. Coach Prime understands how NFL practices work. He knows how meaningful reps get distributed. He understands how quarterbacks are developed under pressure, how confidence can be quietly damaged through consistent messaging, and how a competition can look open on the surface while actually being tilted in one direction behind the scenes. He has coached quarterbacks. He has recruited quarterbacks. He has watched film on quarterbacks at every level of the game. That means every decision the Browns make in their quarterback room is now being observed by someone who will immediately recognize whether those decisions are genuinely competitive or whether the process is being managed toward a predetermined conclusion. That does not mean the Browns are doing anything dishonest. There is no evidence of that. But it does mean the entire evaluation is operating under a higher level of scrutiny than it was before Coach Prime walked through the door. The media tracks everything related to this competition. The fan base is invested. National football coverage is watching how Cleveland handles a situation that has enormous implications for the franchise's future. And now, one of the most recognizable and football-intelligent figures in the entire sport has personally witnessed what that competition looks like up close. That creates a very specific kind of pressure, not the kind that makes coaches defensive or uncomfortable. Monken showed clearly that he welcomes Coach Prime's presence, but the kind that makes it harder to allow vague language to substitute for honest evaluation. The Browns will have to be able to explain their quarterback decision through performance and through the football that actually happens on the field. They cannot hide behind organizational comfort or financial commitment if Shedure keeps giving them genuine reasons to consider moving him forward. The Cleveland media response to Coach Prime's arrival was immediate and intense. Reporters were posting about his presence within minutes. Photos spread across social platforms. Questions about Deion's visit dominated the post-practice availability. Players were asked to respond to seeing him at practice. The attention surrounding the quarterback room grew significantly in a matter of hours. That reaction is revealing on its own, not because media attention determines football outcomes, but because it shows you exactly where public interest in this competition is centered. The veteran with the large contract and the NFL experience is still part of this story, but he is not the quarterback generating daily excitement, curiosity, and conversation around this team. Shedure Sanders is doing that. Every strong practice from him creates a moment that travels. Every interesting observation from the coaching staff gets analyzed in the context of what it means for his standing. Every update about the quarterback competition is framed around whether Shedure is closing the gap or pulling ahead. That kind of organic attention cannot be manufactured. It is not the product of media strategy or publicity management. It is coming from real interest in a real player who is giving fans and observers genuine reasons to pay attention to what is happening in Cleveland. The Browns organization may prefer to keep this competition quiet and controlled, but the moment Shedure Sanders and his father are in the building at the same time, the quiet, controlled version of this story stops being available. At the end of all of this analysis, there is one truth that stands above everything else. Coach Prime cannot win this competition for his son. He cannot read a coverage shell, make a protection call, execute a crossing route timing pass, or manage a 2-minute drive from the Cleveland huddle. He can watch, understand, and recognize what he is seeing, but the football responsibility belongs entirely to Shedure. Every snap is Shedure's to command. Every decision under pressure is his to make or miss. Every rep with the first team is his to use or waste. Every moment after a mistake, whether he recovers quickly or retreats into hesitation, tells the coaching staff something they cannot learn from film study or background information. The lessons from growing up around elite preparation matter. The experience of handling pressure and attention for years matters. The mental framework that comes from being raised by a Hall of Famer who demanded accountability matters. But all of that only matters if it shows up in the actual football. Consistency is the standard. Can Shedure operate the offense at a high level day after day? Can he protect the football in situations where a young quarterback's instinct might be to force a throw? Can he communicate clearly with receivers, tight ends, and offensive linemen, and build the trust that a starting quarterback needs to function inside a real game plan? Can he respond to a mistake with immediate correction rather than allowing one bad decision to affect the next 3 plays? Those are the questions that will determine where this competition goes. And right now, the answers to those questions are genuinely unresolved. That means the competition is real. And real competition is exactly what Shedure Sanders needs to show what he is actually capable of at this level. The day Coach Prime stepped onto the Browns' practice field was never going to be just another training camp afternoon. His presence guaranteed that the entire city of Cleveland, and frankly, the entire NFL media landscape, would focus more intensely on every detail of this quarterback battle. That is the power of who Deion Sanders is and what he represents in the sport. But the more important detail is what Todd Monken's genuine reaction revealed. Not manufactured respect for a celebrity visitor. Real admiration for a Hall of Famer, a decorated coach, and a man who apparently prepared his son in a way that the Browns' head coach finds genuinely impressive. That does not hand Shedure the starting job. Nothing will do that except performance on the football field. But it tells you that the foundation Shedure brings into Cleveland is being taken seriously by the people making the decision that matters most. The next chapter of this competition will be decided by snaps, not by sideline visits. But Coach Prime reminded everyone watching that Shedure Sanders did not arrive here unprepared. He arrived here tested, experienced, and ready for exactly this kind of pressure. The question now is whether Cleveland is ready to let the best player win. That is the breakdown right here on a Sports Zone USA *, where we cover the biggest stories in sports without the spin. If you want to stay ahead of every major update in this quarterback battle and every other major sports story developing right now, do yourself a favor and subscribe to the channel today. Hit that like button if this breakdown gave you something to think about, drop your take in the comments below, and make sure you turn on notifications so you never miss when we post. This is a Sports Zone USA. We will see you in the next one.